This What's Working with Cam Marston podcast is brought to you by Stella Artois Beer.
What's Working with Cam Marston is brought to you by Stella Artois Beer. Stella Artois is a perfect beer for celebration. Nothing caps off a big sale, hitting your incentive goals, or a profitable quarter like a round of Stella's. Brewed first in 1708 as a special Christmas brew, today Stella is a gift for everyone to enjoy year-round. Stella Artois. Find it wherever fine beer is sold.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is the show designed to bring you the trends shaping the workplace, the workforce, and the marketplace around you. Our goal is to find the guests that can speak intelligently about the trends shaping their own workplace, workforce, or marketplace, so that they'll say something that will help us get a little bit better at what it is that we do. We may hear something that they say that we can grasp onto and say, "Oh, that's a good idea," or "Oh, I need to understand that," and apply it to our own world in some way. And that's certainly the focus of the show today. If you're like me, the world of insurance products has always been kind of overwhelming. There's so many different types of insurance products that you and I can get to protect ourselves at any given moment. So there's property and casualty, and there's life insurance, and there's disability insurance, and I have all these things, but I never know if I have enough. I never know if I have too much. I do know that I pay the bill all the time, feels like, when the months roll around. And a good life means that I don't use them. And it's, it's the way it's meant to be. But to try to get to the bottom of some of this and to help us understand it, and this has become increasingly important to me as I now will soon have two drivers, 18 and 16 years old, and I've had to revisit these things for myself, I thought it'd be prudent that we reach out to a local agent who can help us out. Allison Horner is with State Farm. She's been in the Mobile marketplace for years, and she holds a very special place in my heart for a couple reasons. She and her husband are friends of ours, but she was the first advertiser on this show. When I concepted the show, I reached out to her as a friend and said, "Hey, I need your support to get this thing started." And without even flinching, without hesitation, she said, "I'm in." And you've heard her advertisements on this show. You'll hear them again. We're updating them. We're getting some new ones. So she's important to me and special to me because of the confidence that she's placed in this show. However, for the purpose of this conversation, she's making me aware of the changes in the insurance marketplace, the trends shaping her world. We had 2 hurricanes roll through our part of the world in Mobile, Alabama last summer. Goodness knows many of us started looking at our homeowners policy and saying, "Wait a minute, let's take a look at that. What exactly is that? Let's take a look at this declarations page so that I know what I'm talking about." And that will be the focus of this evening's show. We want to look at what's going on out there in the insurance world with Allison holding our hand, telling us what we need to know. Things change. I haven't updated myself on the world of insurance products. I suspect you're in the same camp. When we come back from break, I'll have with me in the studio Allison Horner, agent for State Farm. We'll be discussing the trends in the insurance world. You're listening to What's Working. We'll be right back.
At Spring Hill Toyota, it's just that easy. From our 3-day exchange to free car washes, the benefits of the Spring Hill Advantage make the choice easy to see. We make it easy to own. Every vehicle comes with Toyota Care, plus our no-cost maintenance plan with free tire rotations and oil changes for 4 years. Get peace of mind with free roadside assistance 24/7. And don't forget, it's easy to buy your car 100% online. Visit SpringHillToyota.com today. It's just that easy.
I'm David Nelson, brewmaster and owner of Braided River Brewing. We want beer that goes along no matter where the adventure takes us and that doesn't make us choose between great beer and drinkability. We're drawn to the Delta and united by beer because to us, the best way to celebrate the Delta is to slow down and savor the moments and the beer together. Come visit our tap room in downtown Mobile and ask for us at your favorite bar or restaurant. Visit online at braidedriverbrewing.com.
Ever dealt with the headaches of a poorly prepared estate plan after a loved one's death? Probate courts, attorney's fees? Join estate attorney Eric Cromwell in conjunction with Mobile Memorial Gardens at the Southwest Mobile Chamber of Commerce on April 15th, 16th, or the 18th to begin protecting your family with estate planning. The event is free. Estate planning is not for you. It's for your family. Contact Shauna at Mobile Memorial Gardens to make your reservation.
When you make the right decision, it feels good, like picking the perfect accent rug or choosing a good night's sleep over an all-night crime show binge. It feels really good to make the right insurance decision, too. I'm State Farm agent Allison Horner, and that's why I'm right here in Mobile to help you select the right protection at the right price. I'll make sure you understand your State Farm coverages so you'll know what to expect if the unexpected happens. With me as your State Farm agent, it's easy to make the right choice. You can come by, call, or click AllisonHorner.com. When you want the real deal, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
We're back. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston in the studio with Allison Horner. She's been in business since 2007, 14 years as a State Farm agent, well known across the town and the region. She's very active in our city, and she, as I said in the opening segment, is important to me because she was my first advertiser on this show for 3 years and has never flinched and never looked back. And I'm happy to have her in this studio today to talk about the trends influencing her industry. Allison, thank you for your time. Welcome to What's Working.
Thank you so much, Cam. I'm very happy to be here.
The list of products that you offer the average consumer is comprehensive, and I want to touch the ones that are most significant, particularly the trends influencing these most significant trends. And let's start with one that I think people may have a general idea about, but there are some subtleties in these things that I want you to articulate, and that is liability coverage. Let's begin with what is it, and give me a scenario where this could be important to any one of the listeners.
Okay. Most people immediately have thoughts of insurance as homeowner's insurance or auto insurance. All of these policies typically have liability involved in the base amount of the insurance. In an accident, for instance, with an auto, liability means you're responsible. You have been found to be the at-fault driver, or something at your home was not done that caused somebody else injury. Liability takes care of the other person and that coverage prevents you from being financially impacted by an accident. An extended liability would be referred to as an umbrella policy. That would come into play, and what most people don't think about is what happens when you exhaust that underlying limit, when you have your auto insurance. Okay, what if it goes beyond what my coverage is that I selected? And that's when we get into the extended liability.
So extended liability is when everything else is tapped out and I still owe more due to it being my fault. That's where that one comes into play.
Exactly.
Let me give you a hypothetical that's just occurred to me. Let's say I'm hosting a party in my house, and something happens to one of my guests that is clearly my fault. Let's say the railing or the banister, and I'm making something up, fails, and they fall and they injure themselves. To get access to this liability coverage or the extended liability coverage, can I just call you if I were your client to say, hey, I need this money now because we're not taking lawyers in this thing. We're just, it's my fault. And rather than any sort of suit, I'm going to pay their medical bills and I need access to this money. Could it work that way?
If you're accessing your insurance policy, that's your coverage. You would file a claim for that. That would then be handled by the claims department typically. They're going to want to talk with you as the policy owner and the homeowner. They're going to want to talk with the person that was injured, get the facts of loss from both sides of the story, and proceed with the claim and apply all coverages that could apply through your base policy. And then, of course, any extended liability policy that you might have.
So a lawsuit is not necessary to activate these policies.
Exactly.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. I don't know that changes anything.
That's what the coverage is there for.
Yeah. So is your years in the business, is this something that most people have and don't use? need but don't have? Is it, give me your read on how important is this coverage to the average consumer?
Well, let's focus on the automobile for a minute, because that's where liability limits typically are a term that people are familiar with, because the state requires a minimum liability limit. But I would say that most people don't really have a concept of what that means to them. It's a string of three numbers. At 25, 50, 25 is the minimum state liability limit for automobile insurance. If you have a vehicle and it's licensed and tagged in the state of Alabama, you're required to have liability limits in the amount of 25, 50, 25. That represents thousands of dollars, so $25,000, $50,000, $25,000. The first two are bodily injury, and the third is property damage. So what people miss, I think, when they're thinking about insurance, or when they view it as a commodity, I can just go online and pick out whatever I think that I need. It's the what if. It's the what if you're in a multiple car accident. How far is that liability going to cover you? And what happens if you go beyond that coverage? Who's advising you on this? Who's reviewing your household, your need for coverage? All of those things need to come into play and be considered when you're choosing something, and it has become somewhat of a commodity. The state says I need 25, 50, 25, so that's what I'll pick.
And goodness knows the advertisements on TV are making it sound like each one of us is overpaying every day because they can save us 30% or whatever it may be.
Well, a quick fix is not always the right fix, and cheap is not always best.
Yeah. So the average person out there is minimally covered, is your guess, or is it, or tell me about that.
I don't know the average of that coverage, but I would say that most people are not aware of what those numbers mean to them and how they can detrimentally affect them financially.
So let's say I have the minimal coverage and I'm in an accident and the accident is my fault. Yet the damages go beyond what I have insurance for. What happens?
The individual that you caused the accident, that caused harm to, could seek you for damages personally, and at that juncture, they could get an attorney. They could that most likely it would be what happened. They would seek an attorney and try to satisfy the rest of the claim through a legal venue.
Legal venue that could include my house, my savings, my everything else.
Any aspect of your finances could be at risk.
So let's take this extended liability coverage, and I'm curious if inflation has had an influence on how much people should have. So let's pick a number. And 10 years ago, 20 years ago, I had $1 million of extended liability coverage. But medical bills have gone up. The cost of medicine has gone up. There are attorneys out there who are, I don't want to say predatory, but they're looking for opportunities to find a reason to get at my...
They have a job as well.
They have a job as well. So 10 years, 20 years ago, $1 million may have been enough. Is it still enough, or has, things got more expensive just like everything else?
An umbrella policy, the base is typically $1 million. That is far and above, better than just not having that extended liability coverage. And it depends on your personal risk and exposure. If you have more financially at risk, you want more coverage.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you have more assets, you have more to lose.
Exactly.
You're going to want more coverage out there.
Yes.
Yeah. Can you think of a scenario quickly where somebody came to you and said, thank goodness I had this? I didn't you sold me on it. I didn't think it was all that important. And suddenly I realized, oh my gosh, this was perhaps one of the best decisions I made unwittingly.
Numerous occasions where that has come into play. And the thing about it is nobody plans for this kind of thing. It's surely an accident. I had an accident. And what is the result of that accident? Is it that you have the proper coverage in place and your life continues on very smoothly as it was before your accident? Or are you financially in jeopardy as a result of something that you didn't intend to do?
Yeah.
that's the term accident. So being prepared and looking at some of the results of what could happen, what if, that's what we need to do.
I've got a 18-year-old driver, and in a matter of weeks, I'll have a 16-year-old driver. Is it time for me to reevaluate my extended liability coverage?
Absolutely. The more at-risk drivers are our younger drivers because they're less experienced behind the wheel and sometimes make more impulsive decisions than more seasoned drivers. So, yes, that's always a good time. Any life event is a good time to reevaluate the coverage that you have.
I like that term, life event, but that means a lot of different things, doesn't it?
It does. Marriage, birth of a child, adoption of a child, your children turning landmark ages,
right?
College, those kinds of things, all should strike a conversation.
Yeah.
The important thing is to have someone to have that conversation with.
Yes, I hear what you're saying. That doesn't necessarily have to be you, but you want people protected.
Absolutely.
They will be very happy if they are. I would love to talk about what the homeowners market policy has looked like post-hurricanes last summer and what changes those you may see coming in that. I think people who perhaps had saved money or tried to save money on a homeowner's policy may be thinking differently right now. This is all hypothetical. Let's pick that up after the break. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. Allison Horner has been a State Farm agent in Mobile, Alabama since 2007, runs a heck of a business, and I'm proud to call her a friend. We'll be back with her after the break.
Hi, I'm David Nelson, brewmaster and owner of Braided River Brewing in downtown Mobile. We make drinkable, flavorful craft beer perfect for life on the Gulf Coast. So pick up one of our six-packs before your next adventure or stop by our tap room for a relaxing afternoon with friends. Follow us on social media for the latest beer releases and events and ask for a Braided River at your favorite bars and restaurants. Thanks for your support. We look forward to sharing our beers with you.
This is Cam Marston, and I'm with Cajun Mike of E3 Termite and Pest Control. Cajun Mike, if a homeowner thinks they have termites, do you offer inspections? What about someone buying a new home? Can you come in and take a look and see if there are termites in their new home?
Yeah, basically what we would do on a home above and beyond anyone else is we actually do a thorough inspection. But above that, we will use infrared imaging that will allow us to see problems in the wall and at times can tell us if there's anything going on.
That's fantastic, Cajun Mike. How can people find you?
They can find me at e3pest.com.
That's the letter E, the number 3, pest.com.
What's Working with Cam Marston is brought to you by Stella Artois Beer. Now offering the purchase of the Stella Artois Chalice, a beautiful stemmed glass with the Stella logo. The purchase of each Stella Artois Chalice provides 5 years of clean water for someone in one of 13 developing countries around the world. Learn more at stellaartois.com. Stella Artois. Find it wherever fine beer is sold.
We're back. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. I'm with Allison Horner. For the past 14 years, she's been a State Farm agent in the Mobile, Alabama area, has been in her office for 11 years, and is a seasoned veteran of the business. Prior to the break, Allison, I'm curious what's happening to homeowners' policies. We had 2 hurricanes roll through last year. Throughout my neighborhood, there were trees down. There were trees on houses. There are still blue tarps across town that is a result of those storms that are coming up on 9 months ago, perhaps. Tell me what the trend is in homeowners' policies, particularly in our area, post-hurricanes.
I don't know that the homeowners policy has changed so much, but there are options within most policies that people need to be aware of. And that in relation to hurricanes primarily is what is your deductible? Wind is a coverage, and typically hurricane is a coverage underneath the wind. So is it your wind deductible that applies? Is it your hurricane deductible that applies? Different companies have different rules, for lack of a better term, on how those deductibles would apply. Knowledge here would be key. Awareness. What does my policy say? And reviewing that with your agent periodically is also key. You get a declarations page every year for your homeowner's policy. There's your notice. There's your awareness to stop and read through it, pick up the phone, call, ask questions, and make sure that you know what that is, what your deductibles are, what your coverage is, so that you can be aware and be financially prepared. It's been a minute since we've had a hurricane, since Ivan and Katrina rolled through here and caused a lot of damage like the last two this summer did. So we had gotten dulled, I think. We had kind of let that go out of the forefront of our minds. And then when all of a sudden Sally and Zeta are present and, as you say, in your backyard, okay, now I need to worry about it. Yes, we need to maintain an awareness of that. What's your single largest, typically, personal property purchase? Your house.
Yeah.
Okay, let's make sure that that's covered and that you're aware of what those coverages are.
Oftentimes there's a misconception about what your homeowner's policy will include regarding flood, water. Let's talk about that.
There are sometimes misunderstandings about what your homeowner's policy will cover. Most homeowners' policies will cover water from an internal source, like a water heater, a water line to a refrigerator, dishwasher, toilet or tub, things like that. Any type of internal source or wind-driven rain. Now, what's often not included is water from an external source or rising waters. Those waters that are coming in from like underneath your door from heavy rains or something like that. That's a different type of coverage.
But it's available.
It is. And that is through, that's flood coverage through FEMA.
FEMA offers flood coverage.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I remember that great debate a while back that they kept that type of flood coverage because they were considering phasing it out or something like that.
Right.
I'm not privy to the details of that. But yeah, water seems to be one that most people are concerned with and that people can often get confused around. What you're saying is most coverages on houses when it comes to water are from water that has been leaked. Is that the proper term? Inside the house.
Right. The internal source or wind-driven rain. So a limb compromises the roof and wind drives the rain into it. That would be a homeowner's coverage issue as opposed to a flood policy issue. I
see. And how often, I'm curious how much of your time is spent determining the cause of the damage. You're not going on site and saying, that limb on your roof was driven by the wind and we have documentation that there was a storm in this area. That's not your role, is it?
No, not really. We do have a claims department that is very well versed in assessing damage, assessing the claim. It's what they do all day, every day. And we are an advocate for our insureds when it comes to a claim, but the claims department is going to make those determinations.
When something like this happens, let's just again say that the limb came through the roof. Is it your job as the agent to connect the injured party? That's not the right term. The person who suffered the damage to their roof, the loss, with the claims department?
Yes, that's absolutely what we do. We help people know what their coverages are, what to expect as far as the claim is concerned. Again, I use the word advocate because as with any industry, in the insurance industry, we can all begin to talk in insurance speak.
That's right.
And so sometimes somebody in claims will start to speak in a language that's not familiar. It's a vernacular that's not used every day for people who are not in the industry. So we help people understand that, give them legitimate time frames. We act as a liaison between claims and the customer. We don't stand in claims way to get their job done, but we do we do foster that relationship.
Yeah, so many industries seem to have their own lingo. Yes. And the outsider is absolutely confused by these things. I recently had a conversation about wills. And I remember thinking, I learned all the lingo in my will back when I was a part of constructing it using the attorney. But if he and I were to have that same conversation today, I'd have to say, wait a minute. Let's stop again. I don't know what we're talking about. You have to re-educate me on this terminology.
That's very applicable to your insurance policies.
Yeah.
When you make the decision or the determination of what coverages you need in the policies as they're written, it all makes sense to you at that point. You're familiar with the terminology. You understand why you chose this, that, or the other thing. But time goes by and life happens, and that's just not in the forefront of your memory. Mm-hmm. That is why an agent can be very important to you.
Yeah.
When you have somebody or the office staffed with people that you can turn to and say, what was that again?
Right.
I don't understand that now. I did when I picked it, but I forgot, and I don't really know what these terms mean. Go over that with me. I tell people all of the time, when I need to purchase a major appliance, say for instance, a washing machine, I don't know anything about a washing machine. I'm going to rely on the person that is there that works with washing machines to tell me all about it, and I'm going to make my decision about it, and then all I care about after that point is that I have clean clothes.
That's right. Does it work?
Is it working?
Right.
Is it doing what I want it to do? And the decisions that I made along the way to get to that particular brand or model or whatever, I forgot all of that. I just want the end result.
To know that it's there.
Exactly.
And it's there when I need it. It makes sense to me. One of the things that I see it appears to be a trend in the marketplace is the technology in cars. That people's automotive insurance is priced based on some sort of device in their car that measures speed and distance and things of that nature. Tell me about that.
That is becoming more common, and not just with any one particular insurance company. We have a device. I see advertisements for other companies that have something similar. What it does is measures very accurately the mileage that a consumer drives their car. And that's one of the rating factors that goes into developing a rate for automobile insurance. So if you're driving long distances and often, then you're more at risk than somebody who is only driving locally and doesn't have very many miles. They're not going very far. That's just the law of those large numbers.
But there are some factors in that. Let me throw a curveball. I remember hearing one time that most accidents, and I don't have the source here, this is all, urban myth perhaps, but most accidents happen within 5 miles of your home. That it's the familiar ground that you travel that you get a little bit complacent because it's familiar ground, and you very seldom, let's say, come to this intersection and there's very seldom anybody coming from the left at this intersection, and you assume that they're not going to be here this time where in fact there is somebody. But you're saying the more you drive, the further you drive, not just the more miles, but the further you drive.
Not necessarily distance, but mileage is more often, more frequent.
Yeah. And it's more expensive in your youth, and what does it go up again? Pricing goes up again when you get old?
When you get older. Old is a relative term. The older I get, the more relative, the more that what I term old moves.
You and me, same thing.
But the fact of the matter is our eyesight diminishes, our reaction times diminish, same as with a younger driver. The risks become different.
Yeah. Is there any age that you've ever encountered where a person cannot get insured to drive automobile insurance?
No.
So if I was 106 and I had Coke bottle glasses on, there's a price that I can pay to get insured.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the question is maybe at that juncture whether or not you should.
Right.
But not whether or not you can.
Yeah. That's interesting. Do you find more drivers wanting this technology in their car that's tracking their movements?
There's a resistance to it.
Yeah.
And because of what you just said, tracking their movements, in all honesty, we don't have the desire to really, or the technology or the manpower to track every movement that you or I make throughout the day through this device.
Yeah.
It's going to report a grade of an overall how you drive, but where you've gone and whatnot. There is that little bit of a misconception there that, well, I don't want somebody knowing where I go all the time. I don't either. But then I have a phone in my car.
And they're watching anyway.
And the phone knows everything. So if you've got a phone in your car, you're being tracked.
That's right.
Not to be, sly about it. It's just the fact.
It's so ironic that we don't want Big Brother watching us, yet we welcome them in every moment of every day by this phone that's attached
Absolutely.
to us. It's kind of ironic. When we come back from break, I want to talk about disability. And I remember going through this process for myself, and I think there's a conversation to be had there because this is a guy that studies demographics. We now have 80 million people, the millennial generation, who are having children and getting careers now where losing an income could have a big impact on them. This is like, I remember reading in something that someone forwarded me, the largest disability market has shown up. Are they buying it? Let's talk about that when we come back. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. I'm with Allison Horner, State Farm agent. We'll be right back.
What's Working with Cam Marston is brought to you by Stella Artois Beer. Stella Artois is a perfect beer for celebration. Nothing caps off a big sale, hitting your incentive goals, or a profitable quarter like a round of Stellas. Brewed first in 1708 as a special Christmas brew, today Stella is a gift for everyone to enjoy year-round. Stella Artois. Find it wherever fine beer is sold.
This is Cam Marston with Cajun Mike of E3 Termite and Pest Control. Cajun Mike, houses on pilings can have termites eat their way up inside the piling and enter the house. The homeowner never knows about it, but your company offers protection. Tell me about that.
Yeah, Cam. Basically, what we have designed is a program, and what we do is we will actually drill to the center of the piling and put a product in the center that will stop the termites from coming up into the home.
Stucco exteriors as well?
Correct.
How can people find you, Cajun Mike?
They can find me at e3pest.com.
That's the letter E, the number 3, pest.com.
Think about your home. What do you see? Do you just see 2 stories or the stories of your toddler's first steps? Now think about your car. Do you see an odometer reading or your kids reading in the back seat? Other insurance companies just see a house. They just see a car. But a State Farm agent sees what your home and your car really mean to you. So why not give them the protection they deserve?
You can reach me, State Farm agent Allison Horner, at AllisonHorner.com.
We're back. You're listening to What's Working. I'm in the studio today with Allison Horner. She's a friend of mine. She's been in business 14 years as a State Farm agent, and in those 14 years has seen a lot. And what I want to talk about now, Allison, is something that frankly, I'm not sure people are as aware of it as they should be, and that is disability insurance. I know I got a policy years ago prior to meeting you, frankly. Let's cover my tail here. And it was an arduous process to find a policy that was appropriate for what I did. And the guy that I used worked his tail off to finally get one because I deliver content for a living. So he finally found something, and I'm glad I have it. It's an expensive bill that I pay every month, and I know I need it. But as we were talking about before the break, we've got this massive generation now that's in, I would guess, the prime of years to need disability insurance. What do people not know about disability insurance?
I did a little research on the internet in preparation for our meeting today, and I was surprised by some of the statistics that I saw there. For instance, nearly half of all foreclosures on conventional mortgages are caused by disability versus only 2% caused by homeowner's death.
Half of foreclosures on mortgages are caused by disabilities.
Correct.
Whereas 2%, just 2% are caused by the homeowner's death.
I think disability is an overlooked policy. You have homeowners and auto insurance. That's what people naturally think of in insurance. They get that taken care of. Then next in line might be life insurance. Far down on the awareness list would be disability insurance. And this just brief research that I did would prove that needs to bump much further up on the list of concerns. Part of the research that I did said the odds of becoming disabled before the age 65 as compared with some other common risks are significantly higher, like a house fire, 1 in 88, or an auto accident, 1 in 70, as opposed to disability, which is 1 in 7.
So 1 in 70 people will have an auto accident, whereas 1 in 7 will have a disability incident.
According to my research.
According to the research there. So it's a very valid factor. But most people, and I will put myself in this category, I'm now a little bit older to realize the truth, but most people think themselves as bulletproof and beer is food.
Yes.
And there ain't nothing going to happen to me because I'm the kid.
Well, I actually had somebody say to me one time when discussing a disability product, they said, I just don't think I'm going to be disabled.
No one.
I don't think anybody thinks that that's getting ready to happen to them.
Have you ever had someone come in and say, in about 3.5 years, I plan to be disabled?
Never. Ironically, that same person went through a disability.
Really?
And came back to me and said, thank goodness you did this.
No kidding. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember you telling me about a machine. Tell me the machine metaphor again.
If you had a machine that was producing the amount of money that was equal to your income, would you insure the machine?
Absolutely.
Okay, we all would. We would make sure that machine was steady producing that income, that money over and over again. You are the machine. You are the person. You are the machine that's producing that income, and we need to make sure that it's insured.
Yeah, I think that's great wisdom there. And like I said, it's a tough bill to pay each month, but it does give me some peace of mind, particularly when I look into the eyes of my wife and kids thinking, that's what this is for.
That's all what it boils down to is how much risk are you willing to assume personally versus paying the premium to have somebody else take all of that risk off of you.
Yeah.
All of that worry, everything that you could lose as a result of an accident or injury or illness. And if you, again, one of the statistics that I saw in my research stated that if you saved 10% of your income each year, 1 year of being totally disabled would wipe out 10 years of that savings.
Wow. So if you save 10% a year, over 10 years, 1 year of disability would knock that out. It would completely gobble it up.
It doesn't take much to financially debilitate you.
Yeah.
And you're putting all of the things that you save for your vacation, your children's college, all of those, your retirement, all of those things become at risk because all of a sudden that money is used to pay for groceries and gas.
You told me at one point when we first met about the three-legged stool. Let's get into that because that will allow us to touch on the other insurance product that most people, I suspect, are aware of, but perhaps negligent on, is life insurance, the
Correct.
three-legged stool.
Okay. The three-legged stool, the first leg is what the insurance term is property and casualty. That's your auto, your home. That's one leg. The disability, which we just went over, is the other leg. And then life insurance is the third leg. So with one or two of those, you might be able to sit, but how comfortably? With all three, you have a very firm foundation. And it's a very comfortable place to be. You can rest assured that your risks are covered.
Yeah. So life insurance can be very complex. I've given presentations at many financial services seminars where I'm working on something different, but let's say we'll follow insurance speaker and the riders and the details of some of these things are nearly overwhelming to me. However, much like the property and casualty thing or the disability thing, that's the job of the agent.
Absolutely.
Is to make that clear.
There are a lot of advice givers that offer up one size fits all advice. what it comes down to is that you really need to sit down with somebody and review what do you want to have covered? What do you want to make sure is taken care of? The fact of the matter is, with life insurance, it goes into play. That contract goes into effect when you are out of the game. You have absolutely no control at that juncture. So it's imperative to set it up to do what you want it to do prior to that moment.
Prior to getting out of the game.
Right.
So there's term life and there's whole life. Are there other types?
There's universal life. It's term, which is for a period of time. Permanent insurance has multiple options. One very common permanent insurance is whole life. Another one is universal life, which is like a hybrid between term and whole.
Is it? So, and there are different benefits from this thing. I have term life right now because if I step out, the income I'm generating stops, and I want my family to be cared for and their college tuitions that are upcoming to continue to be paid and things like that.
The thing about it is that all of these insurances have appropriate uses. And what you're mentioning, term insurance, and to cover things like college education or finishing out high school education or paying a mortgage, things like that. Those are temporary needs where you need a lot of money for a period of time or term of time.
Right.
So term insurance is a very affordable way to achieve that. It's not as expensive as a whole life or universal life policy, but those also have their place. So you have your forever needs, something like final expenses. You're going to want to have a policy that you carry with you all of your life so that somebody else is not financially impacted by your funeral services.
Right.
I see that often.
I hear that often too. People are surprised by how much it costs.
Absolutely.
To do the, I guess we call them final expenses.
Exactly. And then also things that you might want to consider to keep always as in your permanent column is income replacement. Even after our wage earning years, after retirement, you're going to lose Social Security on the spouse when one of them passes. So that may not be a huge amount of money, but it is still income that's coming into the household that would be missed.
Yeah.
So I suggest that people look at this in two columns: temporary needs, like we mentioned, college, mortgage, and then permanent needs, and determine what kind of insurance you're going to need for all of your life as opposed to a time in your life.
Yeah. I suspect that there can be people who are overinsured, but I bet they're very, very rare.
I've never had anybody come to me at the end of any kind of claim, life claim, house claim, any kind of claim, and say, this was too much money. I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
Never.
Never have they received that check and said, it was too much. I shouldn't have paid this much.
Exactly.
Yeah. I can imagine that's unfortunately, this is one of those things that hindsight brings about the value of it, or an experience of someone you're close to brings about the value of it, whether it's any of the insurances we've talked about here.
Well, I had a conversation with somebody not too long ago that I think is relevant to what we're talking about. And that somebody was talking about their insurance and they said, I've never even used this. I pay this money into it and I've never once used it. But that's the goal. Right. That's a beautiful life right there.
Well, that's a good point.
That you never had to use this. I would love to be able to get to the end of my life and say, wow, I never used any of that, because that means everything was swimmingly along the way.
Yeah.
It was just right.
Yeah.
What we know is that life doesn't always work that way.
Not a normal one.
No.
Not a normal one.
And we want to make sure that when that abnormal, out of typical circumstance thing happens, that you are not debilitated from it. Your family is not suffering from it.
I know your goal is to make sure the listeners capture this content, recognize perhaps some holes in their life when it comes to the insurances that you offer that we've discussed, and they talk to an expert about this.
Absolutely. I think I may have used the word awareness several times in our conversation. That's the message that I would like people to have is be aware of what you have, speak with someone, find somebody that you can talk to that can advise you, poke holes in your theory.
Yeah.
Say, this is what I have. Tell me where you see that I might have a weakness in my coverage so that at the very least you're aware of it. And then it might cause you to take action on it.
And one of those actions that they look back on at a future date and say, thank goodness I did that.
Right. You're either going to say, wow, I'm really well covered, or wow, I really need to cover this area. I have a gap that I need to make sure is covered.
If someone is out there and wanted to have you evaluate their coverages, how can they find you?
I have a website, AllisonHorner.com. You can call at 666-1616. I am very happy to help people. But again, if not me, somebody. Have the conversation.
Allison Horner is an agent with State Farm. She's been in the role since 2007, 14 years in the business, 11 years in her office here in Mobile. Allison, thank you very much.
I've enjoyed talking with you.
We will be back after this break. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston.
What's Working with Cam Marston is brought to you by Stella Artois Beer. Now offering the purchase of the Stella Artois Chalice, a beautiful stemmed glass with the Stella logo. The purchase of each Stella Artois Chalice provides 5 years of clean water for someone in one of 13 developing countries around the world. Learn more at StellaArtois.com. Stella Artois. Find it wherever fine beer is sold.
Ever dealt with the headaches of a poorly prepared estate plan after a loved one's death? Probate courts, attorney's fees? Join estate attorney Eric Cromwell in conjunction with Mobile Memorial Gardens at the Southwest Mobile Chamber of Commerce on April 15th, 16th, or the 18th to begin protecting your family with estate planning. The event is free. Estate planning is not for you. It's for your family. Contact Shauna at Mobile Memorial Gardens to make your reservation.
At Spring Hill Toyota, it's just that easy. From our 3-day exchange to free car washes, the benefits of the Spring Hill Advantage make the choice easy to see. We make it easy to own. Every vehicle comes with Toyota Care, plus our no-cost maintenance plan with free tire rotations and oil changes for 4 years. Get peace of mind with free roadside assistance 24/7. And don't forget, it's easy to buy your car 100% online. Visit SpringHillToyota.com today. It's just that easy.
Hey, this is Cam. Thanks for listening, and I hope you're really enjoying the podcast. Do me a favor and search for Cam Marston on your social media outlets and like us or follow us or whatever is the right thing to do. Also, if you know others who'd benefit from the podcast, please forward it on to them and encourage them to listen. If you're so inclined, we'd love your rating on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Those ratings matter. Finally, don't be a stranger. Email me with your comments, your feedback, your thoughts, your show ideas, whatever. Cam, C-A-M, at cammarston.com. I'd love to hear from you. Again, thank you very much for listening. Now, back to the show. I remember one time learning years ago that facts tell, stories sell. Another one, facts tell, feelings sell. What does this have to do with anything? It's the stories that Allison tells us. It's the metaphors that she draws on that makes me realize the significance of the products that she offers. There is data coming out of the ears of insurance people world around that would give us information on why we should do things or buy certain products or what these certain products that people like Allison sell will do for us in a pinch. But it's these stories, these metaphors that she draws on, these experiences with her customers that she's had that really makes us feel the significance of what it is that she has to offer. And I want to thank her for coming in, sharing this information, and coming so well prepared, quite frankly. One of the things that she said that I think it's important that we reiterate is that it doesn't matter whether the product comes from her. Her goal is, and it's very sincere in knowing her goal is to make sure everybody is aware that they have the products that are available to them. She's not out to sell you all this stuff. She wants you to be covered and aware, to use her terms, of the things that are available for you out there, the things that can protect you. And I want to reemphasize something that she said, and that's the significance of the life changes, the life stages, the updates that we go through that may call upon us to update these coverages and these policies that we may have had in a drawer forever that need to be examined a little bit. So I want to thank Allison very much for her time with us on the show today, and hopefully something that she said resonated with you that will make you evaluate your own situation and better prepare yourself for any of the dangers or the hazards or the things that the gremlins in life that can creep up on you. Finishing off the show today, going to play another commentary. I'm really enjoying these commentaries. They're taking on a life of their own, and I'm happy to be introducing them to this What's Working with Cam Marston audience. You may be aware that they are broadcast Fridays on Alabama Public Radio, and the team at FM Talk 106.5 has said, sure, go ahead, play them, advertise them, promote them on there. The one that I'm sharing this afternoon, or this evening rather, is one that I wrote a year or so ago about the high school graduation that I've never been given the chance to give, the high school graduation speech that I've never been given the chance to give. And I think if I were invited to give a commencement address to a group of high school graduates, it would indeed sound just like this commentary. Though the commentary is intended to be funny and somewhat tongue-in-cheek, I fear that my commentary, or the graduation, the commencement speech, would sound roughly similar. So I hope you enjoy it. If you do, you can find Keeping It Real commentaries as your favorite podcast. Just go to your favorite podcast app, enter Keeping It Real with Cam Marston. They'll show up. So that will close out the show. The commentary to follow. The show is produced by John Thompson with Eyon Digital, spelled E-Y-E-O-N Digital. Check him out if you're looking for some good production work. Find us on your podcast link, What's Working with Cam Marston, and find me on social media. Now, for the commentary. Have a good week, everybody.
On this week's episode of Keeping It Real, Cam has never been asked to give a commencement speech at a high school graduation, probably because it would sound like this.
Good afternoon. For generations, a rite of passage in our society is for you to sit there while an overly proud and bombastic speaker drones on, imparting the wisdom they feel they've gained over the years, boring you to death. None of it's relevant, much less important. It's a dull and awful part of the graduation process, and I have no intention of letting you get out of it. Now then, you're graduating because you followed the instructions given to you by your teachers, your parents, your counselors, and everyone else on what to do, when to be where, what to study, how to prepare, all that. And while I say good job, I also say big deal. You're being rewarded for doing exactly what you were told to do. That's a bit like kissing your sister. That's not hard. There's been little mystery along the way. The next step, you'll have many fewer people telling you what to do, and how you act then is the real test. What will you do when there's no one looking, when no one is shaking you out of bed or monitoring your homework? So, you're graduating from high school. I'm unimpressed. Next, somewhere down the road, people will tell you that you deserve to, or you've earned the right to go out and find a good job that makes you happy. That's junk. I want you to go find a bad job that makes you miserable. I promise you'll learn so much more and become a more interesting person from a bad job that makes you miserable. The first thing you'll learn is how precious a good job is and what makes it a good job. I bet every one of your parents has had at least one or two jobs that were bad and made them miserable. Those jobs taught them a whole lot about themselves and motivated them to change. Myself, I once sold doorknobs as a telemarketer. No lie. I've also had to sell gourmet Asian sauces in eastern North Carolina, where the only thing those people eat is barbecue pork and sweet tea 3 times a day. But I did it, and I learned I never wanted to do it again. Those were bad jobs. They made me miserable, and it taught me to change, or else I'd be miserable the rest of my life. Next, according to psychologists, happiness is highest in late adolescence and early adulthood, then drops until you're old. Then you become happy again. So that happiness you're feeling right now, don't get used to it. Cherish it for the fleeting feeling it is. Within a handful of years, it'll be gone. See your old parents out there? See them smiling? They're happy again. They know what I'm talking about. And a lot of their happiness has to do with the fact that you're about to be out of the house. They love you, and they'll cry when you leave. But it will be a short cry. Now, wake up the person next to you and come get your diploma. Your parents' champagne is chilled and ready to drink. Let's not keep them waiting any longer. I'm Cam Marston, and I'm just trying to keep it real.
To hear more of Cam Marston's commentaries, search for Keeping It Real on your favorite podcast app or find them on Facebook.